we do start with those Cleveland Guardians in the frigid cold today. And a reminder that next week, the NBA playoffs kick off, tip off, first pitch of basketball season. I want to throw all the bad entendres in there for the FanDuel read. But FanDuel has a brand new giveaway that is helping customers get more money than we've ever given out before. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, not win, but place a $5 bet, you get $250 in bonus bets if that $5 bet wins. So don't miss out. Head over to FanDuel.com/UCSS and claim $250 in bonus bets today.
All right, so opening day for the home opener. Obviously, it's pretty late into the season. Maybe not in terms of the calendar. It's not that late, but the season started. This is day 10, 11, 12, 13 of the season?
I don't know. They're 3-6. They were 8-2 last year heading into the home opener. It was the eclipse day on the opener last year.
It was good weather last year.
Downtown was buzzing. I was walking around in a T-shirt. The weather forecast for today could not look more different than it did last season. I took the WKYC weather app. This is for first pitch at 4:10. 33 degrees, feels like 23 degrees, partly cloudy, northwest winds up to 15 miles per hour. It will not rain, according to the WKYC weather app. But, Bull, when you think of baseball, you think of 33, partly cloudy with 15-mile-an-hour northwest winds.
Yeah, obviously it's not baseball weather, but we'll still have a packed house at Progressive Field today because there still remains, for all the criticism of baseball, and obviously it's not the most popular sport in America, hasn't been for a long time, but there's still something special about opening day, the home opener for a baseball team, because I still believe to this day that there's something about going to opening day in baseball that is more meaningful than in football and basketball. For whatever reason, people have their reasons. I don't know if it's a generational thing of going with your dad or your mom or your son or your daughter, or whatever it might be. But every time we get to opening day, I always think of memories of going to special baseball games with my dad, and so I don't know. There's just something about. There was something as a kid. I know it's the sport. There's so much sports on TV now. It doesn't feel the same. But whenever you go to the ballpark when you were a kid, and we didn't go that often, but every once in a while we'd go to a Mets game, and I remember the first time. You walk up the tunnel. It's not kind of like that anymore, but you'd walk up the tunnel and you'd see the grass for the first time, and smell it. And it was always something special about that. It just felt different.
Yeah, it was always cool because, sometimes during the games, I would happen to be home during, opening day. So that was always a cool thing. And it was like, you could always get that feeling in the bottom of your stomach that you kind of know that it's around. Yeah. And it's not the same for football or basketball. It's just something about opening day where if you win that game, it's like you just feel like, especially when I was younger, you just feel like, oh, this is very optimistic. Yeah, we about to run off like 10 in a row. Like we might be in it this year. And obviously, when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, it's up to about 93, 94. Yeah. That was never the case. Never. We were going to win. We were going to lose 100 games a year. Right. And that's just what it was. But for that one opening day, you had that smile on your face, and you felt like everything was good in the world.
I can't remember exactly what year it was, but I know I was a kid, and I remember, my grandmother, I was at my grandmother's house, and we were going to the game, and I was going with my father, not my real one, but y'all, I don't want to go into that story. Yeah. But anyways, I was going with my father to the game, and we had to catch the train. And, a shaker like Van Aken is the train, the Auntie Rita train is there. I was getting on that. And I remember we was about to be late, so we had to run, got on the train, we get to the game. And at this point, I think Kenny Lofton was the guy that I was like, I had the Kenny Lofton jersey and all of those things. Yeah. And I just remember just being so excited because for some odd reason, I feel like this was like my first time ever going down there to the game. Right. So that's why I think this memory sticks out to me. And I remember they won that game. And I just had the best time of my life. And this is back when, as a kid, you play T-ball and coach's pitch. So, I'm into all of that right now. And it just kind of went hand to hand with it. And I can't remember if they had a good season that year or not. But I remember walking away like, man, this was one of the coolest experiences to be in this environment. And I think it was still Jacobs Field at the time. So, yeah. Opening day is always meaningful, man, because no matter what happened in the offseason with the Guardians, you are very optimistic because of, especially of recent, of the track record that they've had with having so much success. You're like, it might have not looked good in the offseason, but somehow, some way, this team is going to put on a show for us on opening day. So I'm expecting to see the same thing today.
Yeah, traditionally the last bunch of years, the Guardians lose the offseason, but quite often win the regular season.
Yes.
They're obviously off to a pretty bad start here. We talked about last year, they had that great road trip to start the season, and obviously they got off to a good start against Kansas City, taking 2 out of 3. But then that trip to California really couldn't have gone much worse. They lost 5 of 6. They only got hits in 1 game. Unlike the Kansas City series where they faced 3 good pitchers, they only faced 2 good pitchers between the 6 games between San Diego and the Angels, and they just really couldn't do much of anything. So they sit at 3-6. Obviously, Minnesota and Chicago off to even worse starts, and we got a long way to go. They're only 2.5 games out of first place.
Yeah.
9 games in, we got 153 games left, so there's still a lot to do. But Zach Meisel asked me this morning on the Ultimate Guardian show. He's like, "What's your biggest concern 9 games into the season?" And you got to, again, take everything with a grain of salt because you don't want to overreact to 9 games. But there's a lot to be concerned about at the moment. So I'll ask you guys that question. Gee, I'll start with you. What's of all because obviously everything's been pretty bad for them. Offense, defense, and pitching. What's the biggest concern right now through 9 games?
Listen, it's the bullpen. And, the reason it's the bullpen is because this was a strong area for him last year. It was one of the biggest areas, one of the reasons that you got to the ALCS last year. Cade Smith, obviously, and he's been struggling so far. You take a look at everybody up and down in the bullpen.
Well, he's been good. Everybody else is struggling.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Clase has been struggling for calendar 2 years. He's been struggling for a calendar 2 years now almost. And listen, and you do have Cade Smith, and we talked about it before. I'm like, all right, so at what point in time do y'all be like, hey, we do have Cade Smith. Is he going to be the closer now? What are we doing? And are you moving Clase? If your bullpen is the strength of your team, and you are struggling there, and you have some issues when it comes to the front of your rotation, in terms of, all right, well, what is McKenzie going to do? What are we doing? They just don't have. They was always able to lean their hat on. We'll find a pitcher somewhere. We'll find somebody lively, a pitch out of his mind in the beginning.
Yeah.
We'll be able to lean on the bullpen. Actually, you know me, I say Sticks all the time. Sticks has been like average, but hey, look, Jose is off to a good start right now.
Great start.
He got some.
He put the team on his back. Boy, put the team on his back.
And it's like he don't never have great starts to begin.
Yeah.
So now, if Jose gonna give me that right now, and you still 3-something, that don't look good because that means that the stuff you usually are able to have, Tyvis, like your pitching staff, it shows that they're not up to snuff right now.
It's definitely the pitching because the hitting we already knew. Like we came into the season kind of knowing. Kyle Manzardo's been the bright spot. Jose's been a bright spot. Stephen Kwan is. I'm sure he's gonna get to 400. He's gonna get to 400.
Oh, here he go.
Yes,
here he go. Here we
go.
Let
me ask you about. Remember in the offseason, it was a trade, and you told us that you was listening to the guy that you listened to on MLB radio, and he was insinuating that maybe they could move Clase because of this trade. Do you remember who the guy was?
When they signed Paul Sewald.
Okay.
He has struggled so far.
So there's no way that can be true because he's struggling. They're
not going to trade Clase.
Okay.
Not right now.
I've been meaning to ask you about that.
I guarantee you they had conversations about it in the offseason. But they obviously didn't get a good enough offer to trade him.
Okay.
And it's hard to trade.
But you don't want to trade guy. His value's down a little bit.
I was about to say, yeah.
I mean, what are you getting? What can you like? I think that's more of a trade deadline move if they're kind of out of it.
If they're out of it, that's something that we could revisit. But they're not trading Clase right now.
I hope he turned it around.
I think he will. Listen, the pitching is obviously the biggest concern right now, and there's a couple of reasons. First of all, there's a lot of things I don't like about what this team is doing. They're really playing like the anti-Guardians at the moment. They're usually great defensively. They've been terrible defensively.
Well,
It's been a lot of errors.
well, I mean, you did.
You did trade your best defensive player in Andre Jimenez. And again, I get his contract was bad, but from a baseball standpoint, it was a bad trade. It was a bad trade.
You got
I mean, how much better would it? And Jimenez is off to a good start. He's batting cleanup for the Blue Jays.
And how many home runs he got?
Three or four. I can't
He got
remember.
3.
Yeah,
That'd be nice.
How about that contract Vladimir Guerrero Jr. got yesterday?
That's
14 years, $500 million. Good for the Blue Jays. Cubs should do
Vladdy.
the same thing with Kyle Tucker, but they won't because they're suckers and they wasted money on political campaigns. I don't like it. All right, but getting back to the Guardians. So the defense has been pretty bad. Jose, a great start offensively. He has been sloppy defensively, which we're not used to seeing from him. Rocchio hasn't been great. Arias hasn't been great. So they have struggled. Bo Naylor hasn't been great defensively. That's been a struggle. Base running. They hadn't stolen a base before yesterday. They got 3 yesterday. They hadn't stolen a base. This team is all
You
about...
mean Sunday? Just a heads up.
Sunday. Sorry. Yeah. Today.
People will correct you. I know what you meant. So
you're
just-
right.
yeah,
They got 3 on Sunday. They hadn't stolen a base before Sunday. Like, that's what this team is known for. Defense, pitching, and running the bases. And none of those things have been good. They've been sloppy. The Guardians, one thing you could almost always count on them to be is fundamentally sound.
Mm-hmm.
They've consistently one of the best teams in baseball,
Yeah.
taking the extra base, stealing bases, making the right throw, making the right play in the field. And they've been terrible at all those things. They've allowed the second most amount of unearned runs so far. And again, for the 82nd time, it's early. Certainly could turn around. I think some of this will. But second most unearned runs, only behind the Dodgers, who obviously have enough talent to make up for all the unearned runs they've allowed. So that's been concerning. But here's one of the more disturbing stats from the pitching so far. The Guardians pitchers have thrown 70-something innings. I can't remember the exact number, 74, I'll say. They have only 61 strikeouts as a pitching staff and 30 walks. In 70-something innings, that's horrible.
Yeah.
That's really bad. And if you're struggling defensively and you're not striking anybody out on the mound, that's going to lead to a lot of traffic on the bases.
I was listening to them play. I can't remember who they was playing, but I think it was back when Logan Allen was pitching, and they were saying that Logan Allen needs to trust his out. He needs to trust the people behind him. You know,
Right.
So a lot of these pitchers get up here and they try to throw strikeouts all the time.
Yeah.
They need to put it in play and let their outfielders do what they're supposed to do. And it's funny because if you put it in play, they're having errors. You seeing them bobble the ball, or you see them not getting it clean in the glove, and it's been shocking actually. Because like you see it every once in a while, like that's once, but like it seems like every other game it's somebody. I done seen Stephen Kwan lose the ball. Like it's
been a weird start.
Yeah, it has been
from that. Like you said, we all expected the hitting to be a little hit and miss.
Yeah,
you know the pitching. But you don't expect the bad defense, the bad base running, the bad fundamentals. That's the most shocking thing so far.
Here's where, man, I'm a people person, man, and a lot of times people discount the relationships that you have within teams and how that affects people when people are getting shuffled in and shuffled out. Obviously, Bo Naylor and Josh Naylor are brothers, right? Obviously, you take a look at Jimenez is a guy who is one of the best defenders in the league. You look at
Jose was mad. He tweeted about or commented on the post.
Like Jose is like, yo, I'm giving y'all all this money. This is why I don't believe in giving discounts to nobody. And like, because I gave you back this money. I told you that listen, I'm gonna take the discount. But you sign Jimenez, he have a couple down years with the bat. All of a sudden, you trading him off for pieces and parts. And I didn't sign up for all pieces and parts. Like, you guys got to have there's no clear and concise way that the Guardians is operating. Usually, they would just wait until the last minute until they couldn't do anything. My thing was, if you would have just kept Naylor and just said, all right, listen, let's keep Naylor and we'll let him walk because he's more important to us on this team than getting something for him.
Right.
All right, great. If Jimenez had a down year, basically you telling us, I told Jay this, I said a couple of years ago when they signed him, they were telling us that he was going to be one of the faces of the organization.
Right.
2 years later,
I remember Jason sitting right there saying it.
Yeah, and the thing with Jimenez is, yes, was he worth, in the grand scheme of things, the contract he was getting paid? Do I understand that? But that's the problem. We've all been so conditioned, and I ripped the team for their spending. But still, I'm conditioned like, oh, that's good value to trade him to get rid of his money. But the truth is, even with his flaws offensively, he's a better player,
Yes.
way better player than their options at second right now. And if let's say they had kept Jimenez and he had just a mediocre year offensively, we know what he's going to do defensively, and Travis Bazzana came up and was DHing or whatever, and he was ready to take over the mantle beginning of the year. Okay, then maybe you trade him next year. But you didn't have a guy for that spot.
Why
Yes.
did they not think about putting him at shortstop?
Jimenez?
Yeah. Isn't that his natural position?
That was always
You could have done that.
I thought they got Bazzana. They was like, okay,
Yeah,
that's
that's what I
second
thought.
baseman.
Could have done it. They didn't,
Slide him
but
to-
they didn't trade him because of Bazzana. They
But-
traded him because they didn't like his contract anymore.
That's
it.
wild.
And that
That's
ultimately is a problem because
Is it really that bad?
It's a medium. It's a medium.
it's
contract.
irrelevant. It's only bad, and I say that in air quotes because it's not really bad. It's bad because the Guardians are only willing to spend a certain amount of money. For the Blue Jays, who they're not the Yankees or the Dodgers.
They
but
just
they'll
gave out
spend.
$500 million.
They just broke the bank for Guerrero.
yeah.
So they don't. So that contract for them is like whatever.
pennies on a dollar.
For a lot of teams, for 2/3 of the teams, the Jimenez contract is not bad. But for the 1/3 that don't spend big, yes, you're not getting. If you're only going to have $100 million payroll, you don't want to spend 20% of it on a guy, or 15% of it on a guy who's a mediocre hitter.
I got you.
That's it. So, no, it's not a bad contract in the grand scheme of baseball, but they felt like they needed to trade. The problem is you traded your second best hitter and your best defensive player, and you replaced it with a 40-year-old Carlos Santana and a hope and a prayer with Gabriel Arias. Now, I could live with a hope and a prayer with Gabriel Arias if I didn't have those all over the field, because I got that in right field.
Yeah.
I got it to some degree in center field. I got it at shortstop. I got it at catcher.
So with my man Lane Thomas, man.
He's been
Struggling.
Listen, the only guys hitting,
Man.
but Manzardo and Ramirez have been great.
Yeah, that's it.
And what's his name?
Juan.
No, he been up and down. Rocchio.
Juan's been okay.
He's been okay.
Now
Rocchio, he's been. Listen, that playoff Rocchio, that might have been an aberration, man.
We'll see. The problem is they don't have any options at shortstop. Their option is Gabriel Arias, so we're done with him.
That's wild.
Don't
let's-
say that. I got a bold prediction though. He needs 16
Yeah, I
more
hear
home
you.
runs.
And Travis Bazzana off to a red hot start
Yeah,
at Double A
I saw
Akron.
that. Hey.
He's got a 1,400 OPS.
Hey.
I'm telling you, I said this today to Zach. I said 4 weeks. 4 weeks. I'm giving Gabriel Arias. I said
said-
5 weeks in the beginning of the year, or 6. We're down to 4. 4 weeks for Arias. If he doesn't turn it around and Bazzana's killing it in Double A, I want him in the big leagues.
So you gonna skip AAA?
You know, yeah, a lot of the best
How is
prospects.
Bazzana?
I need him to come
Huh?
to Columbus.
Has Double A started yet?
Yeah, I just said he's got a 1,400 OPS.
Okay, sorry, I was looking.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not that many games.
I
but he's
need
got
him.
2 homers.
I
he's got
need him
2
to come to
steals.
Columbus so I can go see him at the Clippers.
Let me tell you
then he
something.
can come up here.
Travis Bazzana, I'll be shocked if he is not an excellent major leaguer. I'm not telling you he's going to be a Hall of Famer, but if he's not at the very least Josh Naylor level, which is like borderline all-star, I'll be stunned. If he's not, and that's the floor to me.
Okay.
He's a better all-around player than Naylor. He's got more of a game than him. But I'm just saying, that level of
will he have a glove like Jimenez?
No.
Yeah.
But
I missed that, man. I
But,
ain't gonna lie
yeah.
to y'all. Like Jimenez,
I think that-
I understand the hitting, but man, some of the things he did on defense, boy, I used to
do
be
think
like,
that that Jimenez not being there is affecting the team right now. Now, it's something you got to get over. It's one player. He's not a superstar. I get it. But I think that is negatively affected. I feel like the guys on the infield are putting a little more pressure on themselves with him not there because he was so special defensively.
what is are we gonna see David Fry this year?
Probably June, July.
Dang, it's that bad. Huh?
Yeah,
He's out for a while.
He out for a minute.
Jeez.
And when he comes back, he can only DH, which...
How that's gonna happen with
gotta play-
Manzardo? Yeah.
Well, Manzardo's got to play most of the time. So either Santana is out of the mix, or Fry is not. I don't know what they're going
Is
to do.
Santana better against lefties or righties?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I'll
I don't think
look
he
that
has
up.
huge split. Listen, Santana's 40 years old.
That's the point.
It's possible, Santana's cut by the summer.
Anytime
we'll
you ask about Santana, the answer is he's 40.
Yeah.
How is he gonna?
Kyle Manzardo's playing every day, or just about every day, right now. There's no reason not to.
I started off by saying, last year it just seems like the vibe is different because, when you get in baseball, there is a thing where you get a group of guys together more than anything.
Yeah.
You get a mojo and a little momentum
100%,
going.
yes.
And it's different from every other sport because you can start playing over your head a little bit. And then, after you start doing that, half the season's over, you say, we might as well keep the party going. But when you change the chemistry a little bit and you start off a little bit slower, it's one of them things where it kind of reminds me of what Tito's last year. It's like they just never, the year before, I think they were hot.
Yep.
The next year, they could never get it going.
No.
Never could get it going.
Now, hopefully they can turn it around. There's an opportunity right now.
Yep.
You're playing the White Sox. They stink.
I can't say they stink.
No, trust me.
No, they stink.
They stink.
We're going to preview the game in the series a little bit later.
We'll do that more later.
Yeah.
And after that, you have the Royals coming to town. And then you're going to play the Orioles. You're really, and for the next three series, Cole Reagans with Kansas City is the only frontline pitcher you're going to face. Pittsburgh, we'll see. Obviously, they got Skeens. Well, I don't know how it's going to line up for Skeens to pitch against the Guardians. But that's it. I mean, you're not facing a lot of good pitching. So it's time for the offense to get going. Obviously, it's tricky with the weather because it's going to be awful until about Sunday. So this whole week is going to be crappy weather at the ballpark. But
Don't say
anyway,
that.
we'll talk more about the pitching matchups later and stuff like that. For now let's switch gears.